Well, good evening, social media, and welcome to Real Fellas Talk Sports. My name is Larry Abels, and I'll be your host for the evening. But let me introduce our distinguished panel. First, we'll start with the man from the sports capital of the world, and where might that be? David Burnett.
There's only one sports capital of the world, Larry, as you know. It's in the heartland. It's flyover country, Indianapolis, Indiana, the Circle City, the king of basketball, the home of basketball. By the way, I just thought you should know.
Welcome, David. Thank you for that information. Next, I have an old high school classmate, Chuck Snowden. How you doing, Chuck?
Hey, Larry, I'm doing wonderful. As you know, I love Wednesdays at 8 o'clock. The fellas get a chance to mix it up. So I'm looking forward to it. And thanks for that introduction, David. That's a great city, Indianapolis.
Thank you.
And Chuck, the drinks are 2 for 1 because it's what?
Happy hour, baby. Happy hour.
There we go. Somehow your introduction wasn't complete without you saying that to me. And last but not least, the sports doctor himself, also known as Go-Go Earl, my old friend Earl Rush. How you doing, Earl?
Larry, I'm doing great. Glad to be alive, and I'm ready to mix it up with you gentlemen. But I still got a question in my mind about how a city with so few championships. I know they have a lot of good facilities and everything, but I just don't know how a city who has so few championships could be considered the sports capital of the world. But, you know, being the sports capital of the world takes more than championships. So, you know, I still ponder about that.
We still draw more fans than the folks in Washington, D.C., my second home. That said, I just want you to know that.
Hey, wait a minute. What are you talking about? Electric fans or something? But let's get back to let's get down to it. Tonight we're going to talk about the NBA, talking about NFL and some college basketball. We're going to touch on a few subjects within each. So we're going to start off with the NBA. A lot of people say the NBA regular season is meaningless. I happen to be a big NBA fan, so I somewhat disagree with that, and I enjoy the NBA. But I selected 3 games that happened this weekend that I thought all had playoff intensity. And I'm going to talk about the games a little bit. We're going to talk about the games a little bit. And I'll let you guys give me your thoughts on the teams involved. Saturday, Philadelphia played Milwaukee. Excellent game. Philadelphia defeated Milwaukee and broke Milwaukee's winning streak at about 16 games, I think. 133 to 130. That game was so great. Embiid had 31, going against Giannis, who had 34. Also, Harden threw in 36, and Holiday threw in 26 for Milwaukee. Going forward, does this really show that Philadelphia can play with the big boys like Milwaukee and Boston? And I'll start with you, Chuck. What did you take away from that game?
Well, I do. I do think Philadelphia can play with the big boys. And in fact, I don't think they have the pressure that maybe Boston and Milwaukee does. I would even say that Milwaukee is that third team and that we have to keep an eye on. They beat them in the fourth quarter, 48 to 31 in the fourth quarter in that game. So Philly was smoking. I think both Embiid and Harden had 10 assists. They got a pretty good little bunch there. I don't like their coach, but Philly is a team to be reckoned with.
Okay. Earl, how do you feel about the Sixers?
I think the 76ers have a very good team. I agree with Chuck. I don't do Doc Rivers. He's horrible. But they have a good team, and they will go at least past the first round. I don't think they'll win it all. They have the ability to win it all, but there's too many ifs involved. But they at least if the ifs did happen, they could represent the East, though.
Okay. David, your thoughts on it? And it looks like Milwaukee is, what do they want, like 18 out of 19 games, and they're kind of pulling ahead of Boston. So, and Boston has defeated Philadelphia all 3 times this year. Do you think that Philadelphia, by playoff times, will be able to give Boston a game should they have to match up in the second round?
Well, let me just say this. I have really taken a closer look at a guy who I have not been so fond of, Joel Embiid, and he's playing very well. I got to give him credit. I think this year he might be able to get past Jokic for MVP. He's played well. I watched him the other night against the Pacers. He's hard to stop. And, I've been critical of his weight and his conditioning, but he's playing well. He looks to be in the best shape he's ever been in the NBA. Got to give him credit. I give Philadelphia a fighter's chance against both Boston and Milwaukee, even though I think Milwaukee is still the number one team in the East now because Boston is fading.
Well, we're going to stay right here on Milwaukee, David, and I'm going to stay with you. Now, I did notice when Embiid played against Giannis, he was one of the few guys that Giannis just couldn't bull and run over. Previously, I think when Simmons was on Philadelphia's team, he had the task of trying to guard Giannis, just like Embiid tried to guard. I mean, he still got 34 points, but I noticed that he couldn't, knock him over, and he was a pretty good opponent for. But Philadelphia aside, how do you look at Milwaukee's prospects? You think they'll win the East, and do you think anybody can really stop them?
They've won the NBA title. They've got that monkey off their back. They are a veteran team. They play well together. I still would have to favor them. They've done something Boston and Philadelphia have not done, at least this iteration of both of those teams. And Milwaukee, the current beast of the East, has to be favored in the East. But, Philadelphia is nipping at their heels, and Boston, if they can recover from their late swoon, they'll be tough to handle as well. But those are the three teams in the East.
Earl, what are your thoughts on the Bucks?
I think they're very good. I mean, they haven't had their full starting squad play together basically all year. There's always someone who's been out, but they've had depth to, take place of them not playing well, of their starters not playing well. Milwaukee have a good team. I don't like them for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe if David's right, maybe because it's the Midwest or what. There's no reason for me to dislike Milwaukee, but I don't like Milwaukee. But they have a very, very good team, and I think in the end Boston will beat them though. But Milwaukee have a very, very good team.
Okay.
If you told me they were the number one team in the NBA, I wouldn't look at you like you're crazy.
All right. Strong praise from the sports doctor. I'm going to give a shout out to one of the friends of the show, Richard Turner. He just yelled at us. Hey, Richard, thanks for joining the show.
Hey, what's up, Richard? Yeah.
Chuck, how do you think Milwaukee is this year? Are they the beast of the East?
I do. I think they're the strongest. Boston's not playing well right now. We'll get back to them, I'm sure, later. But let me tell you about a player on that Milwaukee team that's been sneaky good of late, and that's Lopez, the big fella, the 7-footer who shoots threes. And in that game that you're talking about, the 133 to 130 game against Philly, he had 26.
Yeah,
and I've noticed him in the box score every night. He gets his, and Middleton is just starting to, get back. He's still coming off the bench. They're even getting some production from Grayson Allen. I like Milwaukee. I'm like you though, Earl. Like they're not they're not my team or anything of that nature. But I gotta call a spade, and they are really, really good. They've been together a long time. They have won a championship before. They've played in big games. So I think come playoff time, it just comes down to who's healthy and who isn't. When it comes down to
Let me just say this to pick up on your point about Brook Lopez. It's not like he has just arrived. He's been playing this way for the last 4 or 5 years. And he fundamentally changed his game. He blocks shots now. He clogs up the middle. These are things he wasn't doing at the beginning of his career. He's got a twin brother who's not nearly as good as he is. But Brook Lopez developed a three-point shot. He didn't have that at the beginning of his NBA career. He wasn't blocking shots. He was kind of a beneath the rim 7-footer, but now he's an intimidator. He's going to get at least 1 or 2 block shots per game. He's improved. So I just wanted to say that about Brook Lopez.
Yeah, Milwaukee's going. I'm sorry, Chuck. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. I just was again agreeing with you, David. He's been a surprise for me. I didn't realize how valuable he is on that team.
Mm-hmm.
What I was going to say, Milwaukee is bucking the trend that, since Golden State was able to win with a real small team, a lot of teams follow the leader all the time. They're going to have a hard time with that team because they're big and good, and they're big at a lot of positions. And I don't know what my two fellow Washingtonians don't like about those guys. David, I'm going to be with you in flyover country. I think the Bucks are serious business if they're healthy. Okay,
Absolutely.
Next game I want to
Even
look
that,
at.
even they picked up a kid from Utah, Ingles. He knocks down threes for them as well, so they can shoot that ball from the outside.
And I think their point guard, even though I know Earl doesn't believe in defense in the NBA, but I think Drew Holiday can get up on anybody and can score on anybody if he's needed.
I figured out why I hated Milwaukee, and it doesn't have anything to do with being in the Midwest.
Why is that?
Grayson Allen. I can't like any team he's on. I don't know him personally. He's one of the hated guys I've ever played in basketball.
Hey, Larry, can I make one more comment too about Milwaukee?
Please.
I got to tell you, in the age of these guys who do what do you call that, load management, and so forth.
Yes,
Giannis carries himself so well as a representative of the NBA and the Bucks and his family. He's to see his body over the years grow, get stronger, bigger. Seems like he's really nice, carries himself really well, has gotten better and better every year, plays every single night. I mean, he is just he's somebody to be really proud of and to admire, and I really do admire Giannis.
Sound like you should have saved that for your closing remarks or something.
I know.
Maybe he's somebody that we should consider for MVP too.
I agree, and he's won some of them. Right.
Okay, we're gonna move on to our next game with playoff intensity over the weekend. Dallas against Phoenix. Phoenix beat Dallas 130-126. It was a 128-126 game when Dokic missed the bunny from about 3 feet away, after he sort of bodied the guy out of his way, and he missed the bunny. And it led to a little
face-off
flexing after that. But in the game, more importantly, the game itself, Durant scored 37. His partner Booker scored 36. Doncic scored he scored 34, and Kyrie Irving scored 30. Great matchup. So looking at both of these two teams who have an abundance of offense, how do you think those teams will fare in the playoffs? Do you think either one of those teams will get to the Western Conference Finals? And I'll start with you, David. Dallas or Phoenix?
I don't think either one of those teams is going to be in the finals. I think they're both very interesting teams. They're fun to watch. Any team with Kevin Durant, one of the great players of all time, any team with Luka Doncic, any team with Kyrie Irving, even though he believes the earth is flat, those are exciting, thrilling players. But are they winners? I'd rather us spend some time eventually. I know we're not going to do it in this show, but talk about Sacramento. They might as well be in the Midwest the way they're treated. You talk about flyover country. You fly over from Hawaii past Sacramento down to LA or something like that. But I think Sacramento should get some props. Denver should get some props. We're not really talking about them, and I'm not being critical. It's just that sometimes the media, even us, sometimes.
I think you're slamming my agenda tonight. We have. I would never stay up late enough to watch. I don't think you guys stay up late enough to watch Sacramento. I thought I'd be the only one watching them. So I tried to pick some games that were prime times that everybody can see. But you're absolutely right. Those teams are worth discussing. We've talked about Denver before, but very little about Sacramento, and they happen to be in first and second place right now. So that was my hit.
Really well.
Okay, Chuck.
Sabonis is something. Sabonis is a pretty damn good player. Triple doubles. I think he's got about 10 of them now. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
We just gave Sacramento a shout out, so there you go. All right, that's about as much.
And now we're going to talk about a couple of weeks, right? He'll be hosting the show in a couple of weeks. He come on.
No, I mean, the fact of the matter is, in NBA, you got to do well in the playoffs. So we'll see how Sac does come playoff time. It's been how many years? 17, 18 years since they've even been in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens this year. Be their first time in.
They got Mike Brown as head coach.
Yeah, but back to your point about the Phoenix-Dallas game.
Yeah.
That was a good game. And can either one of those win the West?
Get to the Western Conference Finals. Get to the Western Conference
Get to the finals. The short answer is yes. Anytime you've got Booker, Devin Booker, KD, CP3, Aiden, you've got some pieces there. So the answer is yes. And then Doncic has shown me in the playoffs the last couple of years, man, you can't rule him out either. And if Kyrie is behaving, as David alluded to, if he's behaving, who knows with them? They've got a great coach in J. Kidd. So, yes, either of those two teams could make the Western Conference final. But again, I think injuries will play a big part of this as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But assuming health, and that's the way I would couch it. Earl, what do you think of those two teams? Dallas and Phoenix. Chances one of them can make the Western Conference Finals.
Well, let me tell you what I know first. I know David is never going to let Kyrie forget that he said the earth was flat, because every time he refers to Kyrie, he says
flat earth.
He thinks the earth is flat. Now, that's what I know. But what I think Dallas, no, they cannot go. They can't go. They can't go to the Western Finals. They just can't. They don't. They're not big enough. Even though it's a three-point game nowadays and everything down on the perimeter, they just don't have no gorillas. I would say that Phoenix could win it all if they had a gorilla, but they don't have a gorilla either. Aiden is like, tissue paper. He's soft as tissue paper. But you with Durant and Booker, of course you can go to the Western Final. Anybody say they can't go with those two, you tripping. Who knows? Chris Paul may even play decent one game, so that's even better. But Dallas, they don't have enough.
Well, they went Earl. They went last year, and the biggest difference is they have Kyrie Irving over Brunson.
I thought you were asking me what I thought about this year.
I am. I'm just kind of.
Last year don't have anything to do with what I'm thinking about this year. Dallas cannot go to the Western Final. No, Phoenix can.
The sports doctors made it real clear: past performance is not necessarily a predictor of future. Appreciate you straightening me out on that, boss. Okay. Hey, shout out to Terry Reed, another friend of the show. I hope all is well, Terry.
Hey, Terry, what's up?
Okay, the final.
There's Reggie.
And there's Reggie. Hey, Reggie, how you doing?
Reggie.
And this is perfect timing, because the third game I'm talking about that was a playoff intensity was this weekend when New York Knicks defeated Boston 131 to 129. New York was led by Emmanuel Quigley with 38 points, and Randall had 31, and I think Barrett had 29 or something like that. Boston was led by Tatum with 40, and Brown had 29. Now, the reason I say this was perfect timing, for those of the viewers who remember, Reggie was on the show last week as our guest. I asked about a dark horse, and Reggie mentioned the New York Knicks. He's the only one on the panel that mentioned that. And at that time, they won 6 in a row, and I'm like, I don't know about them. Well, now they've won. They're 9 out of 10 now. So, my hat's off to Reggie. I'm giving him a shout out, and I might consult with him before I make other picks on the show in the future. But speaking of the Knicks and the Celtics now, and even Reggie made it clear to me that he wasn't predicting that the Knicks would win the East. But do you think that the Knicks could upset one of the top 3 teams or give them a good series? And I'll start with you, Chuck. What do you think?
I think so. And by the way, I think it was Chuck that mentioned the Knicks as a dark horse coming. But
Reggie did mention that. Reggie did mention that.
Okay, maybe we both mentioned it.
I'm sorry for excluding you. I didn't mean to do that.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So the reality is, the Knicks, you got to watch them. You really do have to watch them. They're playing well now. They picked up this kid, Josh Hart, from Portland, and defensively, they can put him on guys on the other teams that they're playing. And I don't know. I don't know if he's made a difference on that team or what, but Julius Randle is playing out of his brain. So, yes, the Knicks, you got to keep an eye on. But as soon as we gave them credit for winning 9 in a row, then last night they lost to Charlotte. So you don't know what to expect from them. But, yeah, they're playing really well now.
Sports Doc, that's you shaking your head over there. How do you think the Knicks can do against one of the big three we mentioned?
When Charles said you really got to watch, you have to watch the Knicks. You have to watch the Knicks because that's who they showing on TV. Knicks ain't going away. Knicks ain't going away. They can't beat one of the top 3 teams. To answer your question,
can they give them a competitive series?
No.
Okay. David, your opinion on the Knicks against the top 3?
Let me look at history. The last time the Knicks were worth anything, and I'm not talking about the Pat Ewing era. And by the way, Pat Ewing is struggling. But 50 years ago, 50 was the last time they were any good. That was the last time the Pacers were any good, by the way, too. Knicks are not going anywhere. I agree with Earl. They're going nowhere. But
time out.
Fairness to the Knicks, yes, sir.
Time out. They weren't good when Patrick Ewing was there?
I didn't say they weren't any good. They didn't win anything, did they?
Okay, sound like you said the last time they were any good was 50 years ago. That's
when I meant any good means
championships. As in
championships.
Right.
Oh, okay.
The last time they won a championship was 1973.
Okay.
The Knicks, I'm just glad they're competitive. I'm glad they're looking respectable. They've been so bad for so long. And the last time they were reasonably any good, Mike Woodson was their head coach.
My man.
And that was
shout out.
That was 10 years ago. And
Carmelo
that's
Anthony.
Best friend. So
Carmelo.
No. New York is respectable. They're winning a number of games. They had a little winning streak, but when rubber meets the road in the playoffs, they won't be there.
Okay.
But they will at least be in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, they'll definitely do that. David, I'm going to stick with you to talk about Boston. Now, they've lost 3 in a row. Now, the last game, Tatum didn't play, Brogdon didn't play, and Williams got injured again over the weekend. So is this just a short-term problem for them, or are they in trouble, particularly if they have to play Boston or Philadelphia? David.
You're talking about Boston, right?
Yes. If they got to play Milwaukee or Philadelphia, I'm sorry.
Right.
I think there's a little bit of a trouble there, but in the NBA, it's a long season, 82 games. Teams go through slumps. They're slumping now. Now, it's going to be important those last 10 games of the season. I think that's when we can judge whether the Celtics are fading or whether it was just a blip for this season. And I think that's what we got to look at.
Earl, your outlook on Boston.
It's plain and simple as this. If the big man Williams is healthy, they will go. They will win the East. If he's not healthy, Boston's not going. Plain and simple. If he's not healthy, if he's not playing the majority of the series, Boston's not going anywhere. They're not going to win it all. In the East, they will win it all in the East.
Okay. Chuck, do you agree with Earl?
I do like Williams. I think it's important that Williams is there. It would make it easier. But Boston is loaded. They got a lot of talent on that team. Brown is good. Tatum is good. Horford got a lot of experience. The light-skinned guard, I forgot his name. Reggie, what's his White or something like that?
White.
They've got a lot of talent. They're tested. Last year in the playoffs, they made a run. They didn't show up against Golden State, but that experience is going to help them. They do have a new coach. So I think Boston, I'm just telling you that Boston, Philly, Boston, Milwaukee, those series are going to be really good come playoff time when it comes down to those teams. So I
Okay.
think this is just a blip, those 3 losses.
Okay. So now we're going to pivot away from the games, and we're going to talk about one of the top news stories this week is Ja Morant. And the real question that I have out there, has he been suspended or is he just on vacation? Chuck, what do you think?
I just think they're just putting him on the side for a while, let this thing die down, maybe try to get him some help, talk to him and his entourage, his dad, etc., and get his head back on straight.
Vacation then. Okay.
I think he's
David, suspended or vacation?
He certainly didn't want this vacation, if you want to call it a vacation. I don't think he's been suspended because they have, played with words. So in semantic, I don't think he's suspended, but I think Memphis is fed up. They're sick of all the action. Keep in mind, Memphis is going to be in the playoffs. They've played fairly well, but to sit your top player for now, it'll end up being 6 or 7 games means things are pretty serious, even though there are not going to be no criminal charges related to what happened in Colorado. But I think Ja Morant is making some, really bad choices. And
okay, we'll touch on that in a minute. Earl, you think he's suspended or on vacation?
I know we're running short on time, Larry. We can just move on because I frankly don't even care about it. Guys with millionaires running around doing crazy stuff on Instagram. I don't care. I don't care about foolishness. So I don't have anything to say about it.
Okay. Hey, David, do me a favor and put let's look at his statement, and I want to get you guys' opinion on his statement. So for those of you who are just listening, Ja Morant issued a statement saying, quote, "I take full responsibility for my actions last night. I'm sorry to my family, teammates, coaches, fans, partners, the city of Memphis, and the entire Grizzlies organization for letting you down." Thank you, David. So when you hear that statement, is he accepting responsibility? And one thing that wasn't included in that statement, he said that he was going to take time off to get some help in dealing with stress. And that's a part that I didn't include in the statement. Is Ja Morant taking responsibility, or is he sort of saying, I was stressed out and I need to, is he hiding behind, I guess, mental health? And David, what do you think about that?
I think it's a bunch of hogwash. I think this young man is troubled. He was under stress. He didn't look under stress to me in that video. Not at all. Whether it was a real gun, play gun, whatever, it's not the image the NBA wants to have its players portray. It's bad. Ja Morant is getting some bad advice. His dad is with him on a lot of the games. Where's his father in terms of offering some insight and some, powerful thoughts about what you should and should not do? I don't think Ja Morant is stressed. I think he's just ignorant and stupid right now. And he needs to, fix himself quickly because it's just ridiculous.
Earl, do you think he's taking accountability, or you think he's just, using a prepared statement?
I have to go with David. I mean, he's ignorant. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? I mean, what's wrong with him? He's tripping. I don't think he's taking accountability. For him to take accountability, first of all, he would have to be the one who wrote the damn script. You know that fool didn't write that statement. How could he be taking the responsibility and he got somebody else writing something for him?
Well, maybe he could have expressed how he felt to someone else and they put it into words for him.
What? He's 26. How old? 23?
23.
23.
He's over 18. If you're gonna take accountability, he needs to be responsible and write it or say that statement on his own.
Okay.
Yeah, and everybody, even Chuck knows that man didn't write that statement.
But
even Chuck.
Even when the president speaks, somebody writes his speech. I mean, it's possible to convey the idea.
We're not talking about the president's speech.
I'm talking about, the fact that he didn't write it. I'm not sure that should necessarily be a disqualification. That's all. Chuck, you think he's sincere with his
Look, I think only time will tell, right? We saw a 23-year-old kid last year suffer what I believe it was some mental stress related situations, and in fact still hasn't over it, and that's Simmons. I know this is a different kind of situation, and I am not down with this kind of stuff either, to be candid with you. But he is troubled. There is something happening here, and I hope he does gets a chance to work this through and get.
I don't think those situations are different. I think the situations are just how David explained it. He been Simmons is dumb and ignorant. All that money he making, what kind of mental thing he got to go through? What kind of problem could he probably have? Because you don't want to shoot the ball?
Well,
come on, man. That's just dumb. Shoot the ball. He's 6'10", and he has a layup in front of him. He passed the ball. He's dumb. There's something wrong with him. Get out of here.
My opinion on it, I was fine with the part of the quote that we showed on the screen, but when he said, I'm going to get help to help me deal with stress, that's where he lost me right there. And I figured someone else wrote it for him. If he had just said, I'm going to take some time off and I take responsibility, I wish he had left it at that, you know.
Well, I just think
we need to look at it like this. I'm under stress, so I'm going to flash a gun on social media. That will help me instead of some mental health help. Okay.
Yeah, and allegedly getting into a fight with a 17-year-old. So let's get to the part of the show that I'm sure everybody's been waiting for, the NFL. Even though it's off season.
Hey, Larry.
Yeah.
Your car got stolen. It took all you had to do to stop you from beating up some 17-year-old boy. You grabbed yourself and you said, no, I'm not going to do that because, he may not have the capacity to do that.
Earl, I was 36 at that time. I don't know what I would have done at 23. Okay? I'm not sure what I would have done then. Okay. I had a little more experience then.
Hey, Charles, I was just kidding you when I said even you. Don't get it.
It's okay.
The reason why I use you as an example because people have known for you to say some wild things on this show. And,
I'm just glad to see you, my friend. I'm just glad to see you.
Okay. NFL. Geno Smith.
Oh, God.
The favorite of one of these panel members who lives in Indianapolis, I'm not going to call any names, signed a $105 million contract. And wow. I heard that he's got $40 million guaranteed, and he has incentives where he can make up to over $50 million this year. Wow. His whole career, he's only made $17 million his whole entire career. So he's going to, dwarf that very quickly. David, how do you feel about Geno Smith's contract?
Oh, my God.
Let me just say this. Back in September, when we started the season off with our show, the third season of The Real Fellas, I said, look out for Geno Smith. I said that, and you guys looked at me like I was crazy. Who's crazy now? Geno is laughing on
you crazy for thinking that he just got hot one year. That's all. You think any better than that?
No.
You're crazy.
I'm happy for Geno. In all seriousness, I'm very happy for him. He's a guy who has resurrected his career. A lot of people were doubting him, but he sat patiently behind Russell Wilson, learned, listened to Pete Carroll, and he had the best season that any quarterback has ever had in Seattle, including my man Russell Wilson. And that's a statement in and of itself. Did he get the big money? No, he got the money he was supposed to get for having a season like that. About $35 million a year, at least on paper, is what it's averaging. And with all the incentives, he may wind up with over $50 million this year. That's what you're supposed to get. Now, is he going to get the Joe Burrow money and those guys' money and whatever new contract Patrick Mahomes is going to sign? No, because $35 million is the new mid-level, and that's what he deserved.
Okay. Chuck, what do you think about Geno's contract?
Well said. I mean, here's the thing, Larry. You have always talked about the thing you don't like polls. You don't like You like stuff to be settled on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And Geno did it on the field. Every single week he came out, he performed. He got a team that was, some people might have thought was tanking at the beginning of the year and got him into the playoffs. Kudos to him. And he got rewarded for it. So,
and he missed no snaps. He took every single snap.
And I was a doubter. I was a doubter and a hater big time. And he proved me wrong. And so good for him. I mean, absolutely good for him. I love those stories, quite frankly. He did it on the field. He put in the work. Those are the stories we should talk about.
So one good thing about this show, we have a variety of opinions. So David was on one end of the Geno Smith bandwagon. Earl Rush, how do you feel about Geno Smith this year?
I don't feel anything about Geno Smith. As one person to another, I'm one brother to another. I'm happy for him that he was able to rob the NFL in public.
Rob?
And rob the NFL. There's no way in the world you're going to give this man an average of $35 million in 3 years. There's no way. Unless you're a franchise like the Commanders or the Falcons or some franchise is just raggedy. But, I'm happy that he got his money.
Dallas.
As I told Larry today, after his guaranteed money is up, that's when he will get cut. He will not be there. I'll guarantee right now, he will not be there 2 years from now.
The sports doctor.
That may well be true.
Well, here's the thing: Seattle sort of rewarded him for last year. He's got this incentive-laden contract for the first year, but he's only got a 2-year guaranteed contract. The third year is not guaranteed. So Seattle's actually playing it right. We rewarded him from last year. If last year was an anomaly, then we don't have to worry about him, in a couple of years. And he's not eating up a lot of their contract money. And a lot of that money he'll make will hit the salary cap this coming season. So they probably played it pretty well. But speaking of other people that got paid, let's move up to the New York Giants. David, you might have called this or something thereof.
I called it exactly.
$160 million deal. I think $94 million of it is guaranteed. He's got $35 million in incentives. But what do you think about Daniel Jones? You think it's perfect? Do you just rest your case based on what you called?
I'm not Nostradamus, but I'm David Damas. And David Damas said that Daniel Jones was going to get $40 million per as an average, and he did. You know why? Because he can run. The 700 yards he rushed for this season matters. His interceptions were down. He's got a new head coach who's offensively oriented, who talks to him about his play. He didn't do anything as dangerous as he's done in previous years. He still was a first-round draft pick, and first-round draft picks eventually get rewarded, provided they don't embarrass themselves. We got a couple of examples of that. The kid who used to be in New York who went to Carolina, he failed. The kid that got drafted by the Jets, he failed. Sometimes those first rounders don't do well, but Dan Jones has done well. Is he a superstar? No. Is he going to get Joe Burrow money? No. But he's got what the market will pay for a guy who had 700 yards rushing, 15 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions. That's a pretty good, 3,000 some yards passing. That's pretty good. And New York was back in the playoff mix. That mattered.
So Earl, Daniel Jones, what do you think? He had has he proved it to you yet?
I mean, okay. I obviously that I'm missing something. As David says, those 700 yards that he rushed for were important. A 700 yards rushing worth more than $1 million a year. This
From a quarterback, absolutely.
He threw 700 yards. He threw 15 touchdown passes. You'll get $40 million. And you're not asking me about Lamar Jackson. You're asking me about David Jones. Or you asking me about Daniel Jones. his stats don't come up to 40 million. He's played 3 seasons. He's had 2 losing seasons. He's never advanced past the first round of playoffs, and this guy's worth $40 million a year. I don't think you really need to ask me. I guess you just were going through the motions when you asked me what I thought. Okay.
Well, now that appears pretty obvious. Chuck, how do you feel about Daniel Jones?
Well, look, timing is everything. I don't think Daniel Jones is that good either. I don't. And if that's what you guys tell me not to get on the money situation all the time, and I always do, because I find it mind-boggling that guy's getting $160 million and $40 million a year. I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
Well,
but I thought, hold on. But I thought that as well when the knucklehead in Dallas got $40 million a year, and that was 3 years ago or something, right? So you guys tell me it's the going rate. I agree with Earl. 15 touchdowns. Come on, man. Come on, man.
Well, wait a minute. I think sometimes we get carried away. We get carried away with all of this. First of all, as I've been preaching, and you need to listen to my sermons, as I've been preaching, it's the high number that's going to dictate what the lower numbers are going to be. 40 million sounds outrageous. 40 million sounded outrageous 3 or 4 years ago, but it's the going rate. It used to be the 20 million. Remember when Joe Flacco was the highest paid player in the league? Well, but that's what the market bared at that time, and we scoffed at it because it was $22 million. Well, $22 million is what you pay a high-paid backup. Things change.
No,
and the big number in the future is going to be above 60 million. I can assure you, Joe Burrow will sign for an average of more than $60 million per year.
Let's go back to we're dealing with Jones here. All right, and David, trust me, no backup made more than $7 million last year. No backup at the start of the season. Carson Wentz ended up being a backup making more than that. But Daniel Jones, I wonder why the Giants just wouldn't franchise him. Because I'm and apparently the Giants see him differently than me. I'm not sure. He hasn't sold me yet. He might be close to the fence. And I don't know why they just couldn't have franchised him, see what he does this year, then pay him in the future. But, you know, it's their gamble. It's their gamble. For some reason, he I'm kind of like, I guess, Chuck and Earl, not sold on him yet. He did improve over the previous years, but 15 touchdown passes, that sounds like Heineken.
He couldn't go anywhere but up. He was at the bottom of the barrel. Doesn't matter what the market is giving. A guy has 15 touchdowns, you can give him $40 million for the next 4 years on average. Come on.
Okay.
That's ridiculous.
Let's
what has he shown that he was worth being paid that money? 700 yards rushing?
Beat Washington twice late in the year. If he hadn't beat Washington twice late in the year, he might not even have got that opportunity.
I don't know why they just made the playoffs. I don't know why they just didn't just say we made a mistake by picking this bum and just let him go.
I think he's not. First of all, Earl, I hear you, but he's not a bum. They see him as a poor man's Josh Allen. That's what they're seeing. Well, hold on. Let me finish. That's what they're seeing. Brian Daboll, his head coach, used to be with Josh Allen in Buffalo. So there's a similar skill set between the two guys. Josh Allen played poorly his first two seasons in the NFL. It wasn't until his third season that he really caught fire, and everybody is convinced he's the savior of the Buffalo Bills. Well, that's what we're seeing in Daniel Jones. If you look closely at him, because quarterback rushing is going to become a statistic that we're going to talk about more often, because we had several quarterbacks who rushed for over 700 yards this year.
But surely you're not saying his third year is like Josh Allen's third year. You're not saying that, are you?
What I'm saying is they're looking at him as kind of a poor man's Josh Allen. And that's the track that they'd like for him to be on. The Giants have been out of the playoff picture for several years. This is the first year they've been back. Last season was the first year they've been back. I think they don't want to mess up the chemistry of the team. which is why they franchise tagged the running back, and they made sure that they took care of the quarterback. And that's what they're doing. They're trying to keep it on an even keel, because if they didn't want to risk losing him or upsetting him, and now they didn't upset him. I think he's going to have a better year.
Let's move on, guys, because I got one more quarter.
One more question, David. Let me ask you something. In your opinion, do you think that Daniel Jones is a good quarterback?
Good's a stretch. I think he's pretty decent, and I think he's good enough to get the money that they paid him. I'll just put it to you that way. That may not have answered your question the way you wanted me to answer it, yes or no, but I think he's good enough.
Okay, and we're going to move on to the quarterback that I think we all are curious about, who didn't get a contract, and that's going to be the guy up in Baltimore, Lamar Jackson. Chuck, what's going on in Baltimore?
Well, I wish I knew, Larry. And as soon as you find out, can you let me know? I think Baltimore has drawn the line in the sand and said, okay, Lamar, enough. Go get that great contract that you think you are worth and bring it back to us. And when you do, we will more than likely agree to it and, match it. Or we might take do they get 2 first-round picks and let them go?
Yes.
That type thing?
Yes.
So I think they're just calling his bluff and going, go ahead, find it. If you find it, come get, bring it back, see what we can do.
David, Lamar Jackson, what's going on in Baltimore?
I think the biggest thing that hurts Lamar Jackson, it's not what, the kid from Cleveland got, Deshaun Watson, and his fully guaranteed $45 million a year, fully guaranteed contract over a 5-year period. I don't think that's really what's at play. I think Baltimore, which has been a smart franchise ever since they moved from Cleveland, I think they looked at the fact that Lamar Jackson, as good as he has been, has now been injured for 10 games over 2 seasons. That matters. Late in the season, they need him at that point. And I think that they're like, well, you didn't come with an agent. You've got some attorneys, you've got some help from the National Football League Players Association to help you. But we just want you to settle on something. They offered him big money. I think Baltimore, the city of Baltimore, loves him. I think the Ravens love him, but I think they're beginning to get a little skeptical. If you're John Harbaugh, hold on, let me finish. Let me finish. John Harbaugh has got to be pulling his hair out, what's left of it, thinking, well, where's my man? He's not here to help me. And I think that's part of it.
So let me point one thing out to you, because, I searched various sources to see what Baltimore actually did offer him. They offered him $250 million, but with $133 million guaranteed. That's lower than about 7 or 8 quarterbacks. And if you want to say that the Watson is the outlier, okay, because his is all guaranteed. But Murray and Russell Wilson, I think he's next with 187. And it seems like we could have met in the middle somewhere. And I don't know whether it's just, because it was no more published reports about what either side said. But I'm not sure Baltimore, they might have played real hardball. It might have just been a negotiation position from the beginning. So not really sure what's happening up there. Earl, I know you have a thought about the situation. What do you think about it?
I'm just trying to figure out what happened. It seems to me, where I see it is, Baltimore is hesitating, or they don't want to pay the gentleman Jackson because the last 2 seasons he didn't finish the last season. Is that where we are? Because I don't. Other than that, I just don't understand what's the problem with giving the gentleman his money. I just don't understand.
Well, there are limits to the amount of money that anybody would get, right? I mean, they have to balance the rest of their team's payroll.
Okay, one guy been getting massages from every woman in Houston. and one guy is just 2 years from being the MVP. I don't understand. I mean, I know they don't want to set the precedent and give him a whole lot of. I mean, give him a guaranteed contract over 232. They don't want to start. They don't want to set that precedent because then everybody will be getting them. You can't do that because you might have 250 million paying for people with injuries not playing. You gotta have 250 to replace people. I got that, but this guy,
Well,
they're
I
treating
think
him like trash. They treat him like he's trash.
I think David made a great point when we started this discussion earlier in the year, and it's always resonated in my head. So if you offer a guy $250 million and we'll guarantee you 150 of the 250, if you're healthy through those 5 years, you're going to get the whole 250. But if you get hurt and you're done, I'm hedging a little bit here. Now, if you want me to hold out to pay you the entire $250 million with the style that you play, I'm not willing to do that.
Okay,
But if you're healthy for the 5 years,
But Chuck,
you're going to get the whole 250.
not necessarily, because they can, if it's not guaranteed, they can decide, just like what's happening with Aaron Rodgers now. I don't think Green Bay wants to pay him $60 million.
I don't think so either.
So they can decide that they're not going to give you that whole thing. So I can see why a player wants a guaranteed contract.
And I guess what I'm saying is I can see both sides of it.
No, I can too.
You can be reasonable and you can see both sides of it. I can't speak for you guys, but more than likely, if you were that person, you ain't settling for no less. You get more money than the quarterback for the Cardinals does.
Well,
that's what I think. That's what I think should be the. That's what I think you would.
You're not gonna play because wait a minute, this clown get more guaranteed money than me. You're not doing.
I would use that as my reasonableness for him. What he and Russell Wilson are getting, I would use that as my reasonableness.
And for all the clowns that keep talking about, well, not clowns, but all the people whose opinions say he needs the agent to get this done. He don't need no agent to get this done. If they wanted him, they would have him. They don't want it.
But before we get too far afield on this, let's look at what happened with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins was approximately the same age as Lamar Jackson is now, 26 years old, when the Redskins started to franchise him year after year. I think he did 3 straight years of the franchise tag. Whatever. And then he was able to get the big contract from the Minnesota Vikings. Kirk Cousins has proven, just like what I think Chuck is referring to, is that if you're young enough and you stay healthy, you're going to get all that money anyway. So it becomes kind of a red herring, and unless
RG3, unless you get hurt.
Unless you get hurt, but
you're not going to get it.
Right. I just think there's some concerns about
Aaron Rodgers
his
is 15 years in the league. 15 years.
No, but it's still the whole thing about guarantees, because the reason the team won't guarantee it is because they want that flexibility. I mean, that's the whole thing. We can decide to let you go.
Right.
So I can see. I don't have no problem. I can see both arguments. I was hoping that they could meet somewhere in the middle, though, and I think Kyler Murray's contract and somewhere between Kyler Murray's contract and what Watson has. But last question on this subject. Start with you, Earl. Is he going to get another offer from anybody?
That's the question.
Of course he is. Yes.
Okay. David, is he going to get another offer?
I'm not sure. Looking at some of the reports today, there's a suggestion and there's a belief. It's the talk that there could be collusion on the part of the owners, saying that they're not going to give fully guaranteed contracts anymore, and maybe they're using Lamar Jackson as the example of what's going to happen.
I'm just talking about another offer. Is he going to get an offer that may not?
Well, he may not even get another offer.
Okay.
He may not get another offer, and that would prove a full collusion on the part of the NFL. But it looks like right now, what team has jumped out when the kid from Cleveland. When it looked like the whole massage charges were going to go away, 5-6 teams jumped into the bidding for him.
But they had him.
Okay. Chuck.
Nobody can try to They can't try to sign him until a couple more days anyway.
You got a week. They got to wait a week.
When
Number
that
one.
day comes, he
It's
will
a
have.
week from now.
There's so many
have
leaks. There's so many leaks. We'll see. If
Chuck,
you know,
have all
if the leak,
types of
if the
Okay,
leak
I'm
pipeline
Chuck,
was really
we're
working
running out
well,
of time.
we'd
I want to
know.
give Chuck a chance to
Yeah,
respond.
I don't. Larry, the answer is I'm not sure. I'm so confused by this. Another point that came up earlier, I do believe he should have an agent. And that's just me. That's just my belief, because you need somebody in the middle who can, when you got two strong parties that just won't give, that maybe that person in the middle could help negotiate that situation. So I hope it works out for Lamar, because I love him.
Chuck,
I
do you need somebody to tell you what to help you get the money that you know that you want? Do you need somebody to tell you that?
because sometimes I might be too close to the tree to see the forest, and so I need somebody to.
I just asked you.
That's why they have marriage counselors and financial advisors and so forth and so on. You got to talk it through.
When I know what I want, I don't need nobody to tell me. Ain't nothing nobody can tell me to make me take money lower than what I want. But that's just me, and you're just you.
I thought that not having an agent is fine if he's only negotiating with Baltimore. But what I think an agent can do is reach behind the scenes. He has all the other teams, general managers on speed dial. That's what an agent can do once you get out of Baltimore. But if he's only negotiating with Baltimore, I kind of agree with Earl. I know what I want. That's that. But an agent can have some, help, because I think he might have to look outside of Baltimore now for sure. But look,
I hope it works out for him.
That's all the time we have. We didn't get to touch on all the subjects that we wanted to touch on. But, for our viewers, don't fret, because I'm sure we'll be back next week at 8 o'clock at the same time for Real Fellas Talk Sports. But before we sign off, I'm going to go around and see if anyone has any closing comments. Chuck, we'll start with you.
I do. Mine will be brief. So shout out to HU, and I'm not talking about Hampton University at this point. I'm talking about Howard University. Howard University won the MEAC for college basketball this season. So congratulations. If they win the MEAC tournament, which opens later this week in Norfolk, they will go to the dance, to the big dance, to the NCAA tournament. Howard's only been into the NCAA tournament twice. One was in 81 and one was in, I think, 92. And they didn't win a game in either time. So shout out to Howard's basketball program, Coach Blakeney, who's from DeMatha, who has really got them back on track. And also in their athletic department, the swim team won a huge swimming tournament. The first time Howard has ever done that, first time an HBCU has ever done that. It was the NEC tournament up in some type of regional big deal.
Northeast Conference. Yeah.
Northeast Conference. So it was a huge, huge deal. And so shout out to Howard's athletic department, which I've beat up over the years for doing good things right now.
All right. David, any remarks?
I do have a simple remark, and I know, Larry, you're going to get on me. So I just brace yourself. But
right.
With closing comments, we can't comment too much afterwards. So
okay.
I'm going to shame the man. Zion Williamson out indefinitely. Shocking, not one bit. Lose some weight, big boy. That's all I have to say.
Earl, you have any closing comments?
No, I don't.
Okay. I'm going to have one. There's a guy that nobody talks about that I think needs to be considered for MVP this year. The problem is this team is we're probably just outside of the playoffs right now. But Damian Lillard has been playing as well as anybody in the league this year. And I just want to give a shout out to Dame. And those of you who watch regularly, he's my favorite player. But I think he's been playing well this year. Shout out to Dame.
He had a 71-point game this year.
Here we go. But that's all the time we have for today. Thank you guys for, as usual, you guys have been great. And we appreciate all the viewers and listeners for tuning in. Take care and so long from Real Fellas Talk Sports.
Good job, Larry. Good.